Have you ever looked down at your hips after a long walk and wondered why they feel like rusted hinges instead of the strong, flexible joints you had 30 years ago? If you're over 75 and you've been told your whole life that 10,000 steps a day is the golden rule for health, I need you to stop and listen carefully, because that advice might actually be working against you right now. There's a hidden problem happening inside aging hip joints that most seniors have never been told about. And once you understand it, everything about how you move for the rest of your life could change. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share could be the difference between spending your 70s and 80s in pain or moving through them with freedom and confidence. Here's something that might shock you. Researchers who study aging and mobility have found that after age 75, the connective tissue around the hip joints, the cartilage, the tendons, and the fluid that lubricates movement begins to lose its ability to repair itself the way it did even 10 years earlier. That means every single step you take on hard pavement, every mile you push yourself to hit a step goal, can actually be creating more wear than repair. Doctors who specialize in geriatric mobility have started warning that high step counts, without proper joint preparation, are linked to a rise in hip stiffness, falls, and even hip replacement surgeries in adults over 75. This is not about scaring you. This is about waking you up to a truth that the fitness industry never talks about, because 10,000 steps sounds simple and motivating, but for an aging hip, it could be like running an old engine without ever changing the oil. By the end of this video, you're going to discover a completely different approach, one that doctors and physical therapists who work specifically with older adults have quietly been recommending instead of endless walking. Today, you'll discover a simple 5-minute seated movement that targets the exact source of hip stiffness, something you can do from the safety and comfort of a chair in your own living room. And stay until the end, because I'm going to walk you through it step by step, along with the mistakes almost everyone makes that stop this movement from working. Let's count down through 5 things you need to know, and trust me, each one builds on the last. So don't skip ahead, because number 1 is going to change the way you think about your hips forever. Number 5 is understanding what stiffness in your hips actually means. Most seniors believe stiffness is just a normal part of getting older, something you simply have to live with. But here's what most people don't realize. Stiffness is often not about your bones at all. It's about the muscles and connective tissue around the joint tightening, because they aren't being moved through their full range of motion anymore. As we age, we naturally start avoiding certain movements like deep bending or wide stepping because they feel uncomfortable. But avoiding those movements is exactly what causes the tissue to shorten and tighten further, creating a painful cycle. Physical therapists call this a use it or lose it pattern. And studies in aging populations have shown that seated hip mobility exercises can improve range of motion significantly in just a few weeks, even in people who had given up hope of ever feeling flexible again. The way to work with this is simple. Instead of forcing long walks that jar the joint, you gently guide the hip through slow, controlled circles while seated, which restores lubrication and flexibility without impact. Most people make the mistake of thinking they need to push through pain to get results, but gentle, consistent motion beats forceful movement every single time for aging joints. The additional benefit here is that better hip mobility also improves your balance, which means fewer falls and more confidence walking to the mailbox or the kitchen. Imagine waking up and being able to get out of a chair without that painful catch in your hip. That is what number 5 sets in motion. Number 4 is the seated hip circle, and this is where things start to get exciting. This movement solves a hidden problem that almost nobody talks about, which is that your hip joint is actually a ball and socket joint designed to move in a full circle, not just forward and backward like walking allows. When you only walk, you are only using a small slice of your hip's full range of motion, and the rest of that range slowly disappears from disuse. Most seniors overlook this because walking feels like enough exercise, and it is tiring, so it seems like it should be working every part of the body. But the surprising part is that walking alone can actually reinforce stiffness in the hip's rotational movement, the very motion you need to get in and out of a car, to turn in bed, or to step over a curb safely. Researchers studying joint health in older adults have found that rotational and circular movements are essential for maintaining synovial fluid distribution, which is a natural lubricant inside your joints. Without that circular motion, the fluid pools unevenly and the joint dries out in certain areas, leading to that grinding, stiff feeling. To do this movement, you simply sit tall in a sturdy chair, lift one knee slightly, and draw slow, gentle circles with your knee, first in one direction for 10 circles, then reverse. Most people make the mistake of rushing through this, moving fast and small, when the real benefit comes from slow, wide, controlled circles. Beyond flexibility, this movement also gently activates the core and improves circulation in the legs, which can reduce swelling and discomfort. Picture yourself 6 weeks from now, stepping into your car without that wince, without that stuck feeling. That's the transformation waiting for you here. If you're enjoying this video so far and you want more honest, doctor-informed senior health content like this, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It genuinely helps more seniors just like you find this information, and it tells me to keep making videos that actually respect your intelligence and your body. Now let's keep going, because the next one is even more powerful than what we just covered. Number 3 is the seated figure 4 stretch. And this is one that most seniors have never even heard of, let alone tried. This movement targets the deep hip rotator muscles and the piriformis, a small but powerful muscle that sits underneath the glutes and often becomes tight with age, pressing on nerves and causing what many people mistake for simple hip pain or even sciatica. Here's what most people don't realize. A huge percentage of what seniors call hip pain is not actually coming from the hip joint itself. It's coming from this tight little muscle squeezing a nerve. Doctors who specialize in geriatric physical therapy report that gentle figure 4 stretches can relieve this kind of referred pain remarkably quickly, often within days, because you're finally releasing pressure that has been building for years. Most seniors overlook this stretch because it sounds intimidating, like something only younger, more flexible people can do, but the seated version makes it accessible to almost everyone, regardless of current mobility. To perform it, you sit toward the edge of a sturdy chair, cross one ankle gently over the opposite knee, and lean forward slightly from the hips until you feel a gentle stretch in the outer hip and glute area, holding for 20 to 30 seconds on each side. The mistake most people make is bouncing or forcing the stretch, which can actually cause the muscle to tighten further as a protective response. Instead, you want slow, breathing, and gentle, patient pressure. The additional benefit of this stretch is often a noticeable reduction in lower back discomfort as well, since tight hip rotators frequently pull on the lower spine. Imagine sitting through a 2-hour family dinner or a movie without that nagging ache creeping up your side. That relief is closer than you think. Number 2 is where we start combining movement with strength, because flexibility alone is not enough. This is the seated hip flexor march, and it solves a problem that becomes especially dangerous after 75, which is the weakening of the muscles that lift your leg to step, climb, or recover your balance if you stumble. Here's the shocking part. Studies on fall prevention in older adults have consistently shown that weak hip flexors are one of the strongest predictors of future falls, even more than general leg weakness, because these are the muscles responsible for that quick, protective step you take when you lose your balance. Most seniors overlook hip flexor strength completely because it's an invisible muscle group. You can't see it in the mirror the way you see your arms or your legs, so it's easy to assume it's fine. But the surprising part is that hip flexors weaken faster than almost any other muscle group with age and inactivity, largely because modern life involves so much sitting without ever actively lifting the leg against resistance. To do this exercise, you sit tall, and one at a time, lift your knee toward your chest as high as is comfortable, hold for 2 seconds, then lower with control, alternating legs for a total of 20 lifts. Most people make the mistake of using momentum, swinging the leg up quickly instead of lifting it slowly with control, which robs the muscle of the very strengthening effect you're trying to create. Beyond fall prevention, stronger hip flexors make it noticeably easier to climb stairs, get up from low chairs, and even put on your own shoes and socks without straining your back. Picture the confidence of walking through your own home or a grandchild's birthday party without that fear of losing your footing. That confidence is what this movement quietly builds, one gentle lift at a time. And now, number 1, the most important discovery in this entire video, the movement that ties everything together and creates the deepest transformation. This is the seated hip opener with breath, and here is why it matters more than anything else we've discussed. Stiff hips after 75 are rarely just a mechanical problem. They're deeply connected to how your nervous system holds tension in your body. When you experience pain or fear of falling, your body unconsciously tightens the muscles around your hips as a protective response. And over months and years, this becomes a chronic, unconscious clenching that no amount of walking can ever undo, because walking doesn't address the nervous system. It only asks the joint to keep working under that tension. Researchers studying mind-body connections in aging populations have found that combining slow, controlled hip opening movements with deep, deliberate breathing can significantly reduce muscle guarding, the unconscious tightening we just talked about, in ways that movement alone cannot achieve. This is the piece almost every senior health video leaves out, because it doesn't look as exciting as counting steps, but it is often the true root cause of persistent stiffness that never seems to go away no matter what else you try. Most seniors overlook this completely, assuming stiffness is purely physical, when in reality, teaching your nervous system that it's safe to open and release the hip is often the missing key. To do this movement, you sit comfortably, place your feet wide apart on the floor, rest your hands on your knees, and slowly, gently, let your knees fall outward as far as comfortable while taking a slow, deep breath in through your nose. Then as you exhale slowly through your mouth, allow the hips to release just a little further without forcing anything. You repeat this for 5 slow breaths, twice a day. The mistake almost everyone makes is trying to force the stretch physically while holding their breath, which actually signals danger to the nervous system and causes even more tightening. The breath is not optional here. It is the entire mechanism that makes this work. Beyond hip flexibility, many seniors report improved sleep, reduced anxiety, and an overall sense of calm from this practice, because you are essentially teaching your whole body that it is safe to let go of tension it has been holding for years. Imagine, just for a moment, waking up one morning without that first painful shuffle to the bathroom, feeling instead a quiet, steady ease in your hips as you start your day. That is not a fantasy. That is what patient, consistent practice of this movement can offer you, and it is why it earns the very top spot on this list. So let's bring it all together. Instead of forcing 10,000 steps that can wear down an aging hip joint, you now know 5 gentler, smarter movements. The seated hip circle, the figure 4 stretch, the hip flexor march, and the deep hip opener with breath, all working together to restore flexibility, strength, and balance from the safety of a chair. Your action plan is simple. Choose just 5 minutes today, pick 2 or 3 of these movements, and practice them slowly and gently, adding more as your body allows over the coming weeks. Consistency matters far more than intensity here. As always, please check with your doctor or physical therapist before starting any new movement routine, especially if you have existing joint conditions, recent surgeries, or balance concerns, because your safety always comes first. Now I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me, which of these 5 movements are you going to try first, and how long have your hips been feeling stiff? Your answer might just encourage someone else watching this video who needed to hear that they are not alone, and that real relief is still possible no matter your age.